Yeah.
I mean, regardless of what side you're on, whether you think that we came from a being that created us all, or that we're just all nothing but just a happy accident, both of those concepts are hilarious when you really break them down. And so there's just so much funny going on. And when you learn to embrace that it's all just a big joke to some degree, boy, life gets easier.
Ladies and gentlemen,
All of you freaks! Mutation!
Curiouser and curiouser.
You're a prophet of decentralization.
To reestablish a cosmic context for mankind.
the search and striving for truth and knowledge.
There will be a degeneration of ideas.
What kind of place is this?
Hey everybody, this is Jason Wilson with Isn't Life Curious? Life is a curious thing. Let's explore it together. And today I'm really excited to be joining a comedian, philosopher, overall joy bringer. I'm with Rodney Norman. Rodney, thanks so much for being willing to join the podcast today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Anybody's willing to give me attention, I'm all for it.
That's right. That's the way to be. I told you right before we started out that my wife and I have followed your comedy for at least the past year and a half or so, and have gotten a lot of joy from it. And one of the reasons I reached out to you for this podcast is not just because we love your work and get a lot of laughs out of it, but you have a unique kind of philosophical touch to your work, and something that you even own, on your website and stuff. And so it was one of these kind of impulses where I was like, I would really love to talk to Rodney and see what we get into as we explore some of the mysteries of life and where comedy fits into that. So this is very exciting to me.
Well, let's do it then. Let's break down the complete fabric of reality.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's break it all down. By the end of this 60 minutes, everyone listening will know everything they need to know about how to navigate life and be happy, and we won't have to do any more soul searching, and we'll just all move on to have a happy, better civilization.
Absolutely. All the questions you've ever had are about to be answered.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, one thing that I noticed, I've watched at least all of the stand-up that I've been able to find online and everything. And one thing I noticed that I really related to in your work is you talk about you're originally from Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And you come from an area that has a lot of, there's a lot of churches, a lot of religious stuff. I'm from the Southeast, from Mississippi. So
Yeah.
We're surrounded by Mormons secretly, not as much in the open.
Yeah, we're covert Christians.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing I wanted to just kick things off with to explore is, kind of, have you always had this sort of philosophical mindedness to yourself, and did the, growing up around religion in that context, did that have a big influence on kind of your thinking and how you developed, and then later kind of what fed into your comedy?
Yeah, I've always been a very curious fellow, and I've always just loved to learn everything I can. And, one thing, within Mormondom is that a big part of that is encouraging you to expand your horizons and learn about the world. Because there's truth everywhere, and we got to go out and find it. And I've just loved that idea that there's these little nuggets of truth just scattered all over, and we got to go out and find them and put them all together to come up with the whole picture. Yet understanding that we'll probably never accomplish that because we're just not capable of comprehending even a smidgen of the reality that is going on around us. So all we can do is just find peace and happiness in our own life and hope for the best.
And is that your sort of passion for comedy, does it kind of extend from that natural curiosity?
Oh, absolutely, because it's hilarious. I mean,
Yeah,
the whole concept of reality and life in general is hilarious.
yeah,
I mean, regardless of what side you're on, whether you think that we came from a being that created us all, or that we're just all nothing but just a happy accident, and regardless of both of those concepts are hilarious when you really break them down. And so there's just so much funny going on. And when you learn to embrace that it's all just a big joke to some degree, boy, life gets easier.
I completely agree. The cosmic joke. There was a joke you told on one of your stand-up specials that I loved so much because I related to it so strongly in how I grew up and what I was exposed to. But you had a joke about, and I'm gonna screw it up now, and you can correct me, but basically this idea that you might go to an amusement park or field trip or something, do something dangerous, and the answer to prepare for the danger is, well, we're going to have a prayer, and
Yes.
and everyone's going to be taken care of, and then we just move on with the danger, and we're okay.
Yeah.
That when I heard that joke, I was like, oh my gosh, this is definitely like my small town in Mississippi. I've experienced that a million different times, and always kind of laughed in my head, even as a kid, of like, well, I hope Joe Bob over there doesn't cut his toe off. 'Cause, I mean, we prayed, so hopefully
Well, yeah. We know
everything's
we're
gonna
going
be okay.
into dangerous and hostile territory, but we're going to say a prayer and hope for the best and do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was God. That struck a chord with me. And when you were focusing on when you were young and kind of trying to sort out life's mysteries, what were some of the sort of conundrums, these cosmic conundrums that we're caught in, that really caught your attention, that you kind of thought about frequently?
Well, I think just the general concept of any idea that we think we know anything,
Ah, yeah,
I
yeah,
always thought was hilarious, because even when I was in school, you're studying history and you're going, this is, even at a young age, I'm like, this is history written by the people who won.
yeah. Right, right.
And it's also history written by people who have an agenda.
Yep,
And everything that you read has a reason, has an agenda behind it.
yep.
And when you see what the agenda is, and it doesn't in any way actually benefit you in any degree, it's like, okay, there's something going on here that I'm being told one thing, but the reality is something else, and I could see that very early on. And because so much of life and so many things that go on in life make absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yep.
I remember one of the things when I was a kid, we had the gas crisis. I don't know if you remember that.
Mhm.
And you could only go and buy gas on, like, if your license plate, the last number in your license plate was an odd, you could buy gas one day, and if it was even, you could buy gas the other day. And there would be these long lines. And in reality, there was no shortage. It was all just completely created by governments, and everybody knew it. Everybody understood that it was a game being played. But at the same time, it's like there's nothing we could do about it. I mean,
Right.
we're basically we're stuck to some degree, because the people who have the power are using against us all the time. And it's like, okay, so how do we deal with this? I know I'm being lied to. I know I'm being controlled and manipulated. What do I do about it? Well, the best thing to do is mock and ridicule everything you can, because it's all worthy of being mocked and ridiculed.
That's right. Yeah. Something my wife gets on to me about is I always say that nothing is beyond the bounds of comedy, and anything can be made fun of.
Absolutely.
And yeah, sometimes that leads to some awkward glances, and like, you really said that in public? I was like, I thought it was funny. But I agree. Everything is open to ridicule, and I something that I appreciate about comedy is just like, in order for us as a civilization to stay sane, we have to laugh.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and especially, I think the more that we get exposed to more information, and we're just sort of inundated every day with just too much information and terrible news, all sorts of different things. If you can't learn to make fun of things, you're going to end up miserable, and you don't
Oh,
have to be.
absolutely.
And what led from that young age? How did your career into comedy sort of start to take shape? At what point did you decide this is something I'm going to really, start to take seriously and put some energy into to, try to make something happen?
Well, I had always done acting and performing to some degree when I was a little kid. I just loved it.
Yeah.
And I'd always wanted to do stand up, but I was like, I never knew how do you get started? I didn't know anything, right? With acting, you just go to auditions and,
Right.
they like you, they pick you. But stand up isn't like that at all. It's a completely different world. And, but what finally got me into it was one day I had a handyman business. I did, odds and ends stuff, kind of work for a property management company. And one day I was working on fixing this, putting plexiglass in a window that people kept breaking out and robbing this lady's house.
Oh, geez.
And as we were getting ready, we were trying to cut the plexiglass to fit it in. This other guy that was helping me, he didn't understand the concept of just score it and then pop the plexiglass. He was trying to cut it all at once. And while he was doing so, he lost control of the knife and cut the top of my finger off.
Jeez.
And so I had to, wife rushes me to the hospital, and we're sitting in the emergency room, and I'm there getting my finger sewed back on. And I thought, this is not what I wanted to do with my life. And so I gave my contract over to a friend of mine, just said, here, the business is yours now. I quit, and I went and found an open mic, and I wrote a couple jokes, and I went and did it, and just never looked back.
Wow. It took getting your finger cut off.
It was. Yep. It was just sitting there staring, thinking to myself, this is
not what I signed up for.
This was not the plan.
This was not the plan. and and how has that journey evolved over time? Because I've seen you. Well, first of all, just in appearances, you've evolved quite a bit. Because some people don't remember you before the beard, but I remember you well before the beard.
Oh wow, that's surprising. Most people don't remember me before the beard because nobody heard of me before the beard.
Well, the main thing is Dry Bar. I mean, Dry Bar has kept up. They have such good productions of shows that have happened there. And they've captured you
they're
through the
amazing.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Dry Bar. They've been so good for comedy, especially clean comedy.
Yeah.
And they've really opened up, and they've exposed the world to comedians who were ignored by every other platform.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, because they didn't fit the demographic that they were trying to appeal to. Whereas with Dry Bar, the attitude was, hey, if you're funny, we're putting you out there. And so it was awesome. Dry Bar has just been a godsend to so many comedians and listeners in general. Just be able to laugh and enjoy yourself without having to worry about all the nonsense and nastiness that other comedians espouse.
I appreciate that you point that out, because a comedian that I lump you together with in my head, that another comedian I really love, is Brian Regan.
Yes.
He's an example of one of these comedians that generally it's clean comedy, also philosophically focused, a lot of undertones of messages about life and stuff. And so I view you two as very, very similar.
That's quite an honor. Thank you.
In sort of style. Oh, absolutely. No, I totally see it, and I think that type of comedy is really finding its place these days, which is interesting to watch. This sort of move towards like, can we just laugh about all of the ridiculous everyday things that we all experience, and have a couple of moments to consider some big questions and then laugh about it some more, and and not get lost into a lot of the sometimes the grime, I guess, that can
Yeah.
that can come with comedy, because that's kind of the sort of quick, easy way to get people to laugh, is to touch on things that kind of hit those nerves. But I really appreciate that, and I love that approach. And I studied philosophy when I was in undergrad, so anytime I see art in any form that kind of is pushing people to think about big questions, I'm like, I love that. So yeah, it's been really cool to see, and this actually segues into something that I know everyone listening wants me to talk to you about, which is your characters. So, and
Yes.
you have multiple. Leonard has become one of the most popular ones.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you got several, your Santa and some of the others that you've kind of like teased in your stand up. So I guess we'll start with the most popular one that people probably want to hear the most about, which is Leonard. Where did Leonard come from, and are you surprised that he struck such a nerve in so many people?
Yes.
In a good way.
Yeah. Well, the original conception was my grandfather, who was a kind of a lush drunk and
Yeah.
alcoholic. He drunk himself to an early grave. He died at 63, basically just from drinking and smoking his whole life.
Yeah.
But he would often try to teach me and my cousin life lessons, because we'd go to visit Grandma's house, and to go outside you had to go, of course, right past Grandpa sitting at the kitchen table, which was his place. He'd sit there and open a window and smoke out the window.
Ah, okay.
And he would stop and give us these weird lessons that he would tell us, and stories, and most of the time it was this kind of these incoherent ramblings, and then just sort of out of nowhere he would share a beautiful nugget of wisdom, and then he'd call us knuckleheads and told us to get out of his face. And so I wanted to do a character based on him, but not necessarily, it wasn't so much that he was a drunk. It was just that, he just, it seemed like an unlikely person to tell you anything
Right.
deeply philosophical, because but he was very, very thoughtful, very intelligent man. But and then coupled with that, I had a friend of mine who is a life coach, and he's always posting stuff on social media with all these weird. You've seen them, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
And just sort of the over the top, and even though they're all saying something interesting, it doesn't seem very interesting, because it feels like you're just being preached to, and no one really likes to be preached to. And because they make it sound like, oh, I just came up with this brilliant idea,
Right.
that
I
I need to share
just
with you.
figured all of this out, and now I'm going to bestow this important knowledge onto you.
And it's like, look, everybody reads Dale Carnegie and Napoleon Hill. Get over yourself.
Right.
It's everybody's just regurgitating the same stuff over and over again. And it's about the packaging, right?
Yep.
And so my thought was, when I was watching him, I was like, that's it. My grandpa, my drunk grandpa, as the world's worst motivational speaker. And that's where the idea of Leonard came from. And so I started making some videos that got some attention, but not a whole lot until just last year. Since COVID, it's just really struck a chord with people, and it's been amazing. I mean, it's absolutely been just a thrill to watch. When you create something and you put it out there and people appreciate it, it's always awesome. But to see how it's touched people, and it's not just that people think it's funny and entertaining, which is
Right.
the primary goal. But that, yeah, there's good messages in there. I just I love teaching, Stoicism and Buddhism and Christianity. I mean, just there's so many good things to share with people that, and like I tell people, look, I'm not saying anything new. I'm not saying anything different. I haven't created some new form of philosophy. I'm just sharing with people what you already know, but I'm doing it in a way that you don't,
Yeah, they don't expect. It's like
you don't expect it. Yeah.
yeah, it's like they're just settled in for a good laugh, and then all of a sudden you wash over them this existential issue that they're like, oh damn, okay, well,
Yeah, your first thought is, what is wrong with this guy? And then
You
your
realize,
next
wait,
thought is, this is funny. And then when the punch comes, it's like, oh, this is funny. And yeah, my life isn't that bad.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know what I was worried about before, but now I'm okay.
yeah. Well, that's the sort of overarching message that Leonard often puts out there that I always appreciate is like, hey, no one has it figured out. Like, we're all just we're all here doing the same stuff, and
Yep.
you just just keep going. We're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just keep moving.
and you have other characters too. I mean, I mentioned the Santa. I don't know how long you've been doing the Santa. I only noticed it this past year, but that one
Yeah,
I
the good
also
the good
found
the good
hilarious.
people at Dry Bar allowed me to do the Santa,
Yes,
kind of
yeah,
snuck it in, and they put it out there for me. Yeah, I had done it a year before for a friend of mine. He does a show, a charity show every year, and he raises money for local charities and Sub for Santa kind of stuff during the Christmas season. And every year it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, it's just an amazing thing with this guy, what he's pulled off. And so to support him, often I've dropped in and done little guest spots, and I thought I wanted to do something different. So I came up with this idea of doing Santa doing stand-up.
yeah,
And most people who do, there's a lot of people who've done Santa as a stand-up comedian, but usually it's just him getting up there and telling dirty jokes.
right, right.
So it's a bunch of, well, I'm talking. And I thought I want to do it. I thought it'd be funnier to just play it straight up as Santa giving his wisdom. I mean, he's this mythical character who's been around for years, and he's seen everything and anything you could imagine. What would his perspective of our world be? And that's where the idea came from. And it's just a lot of fun to do. I'm looking for it. I might do a new version of it every year, I'm thinking.
That'd be really cool, and especially, yeah, when you take that into consideration, like think of Santa as, this being that has been around for so long and seen so much, is not surprised by anything, and, and providing commentary. There's so many directions you can go in.
Yeah. When you get away from the obvious place that everybody goes,
Yeah,
it opens up to you. That's one thing I think clean comedy in general does, is it affords you the opportunity to explore. You're not stuck with having to be dirty. You're not stuck with having to have foul language. I mean, that's at least that's my experience. Is that the cleaner you are, the more clever you get to be, the more fun you have.
that touches on like a classic bit of insight that was passed down from my grandparents and friends of mine, their grandparents, things with this idea of like it requires a certain amount of ingenuity and intelligence to find other ways to express yourself beyond just using curse words or something like that. Like you have to really think. It gets beyond just sort of the kind of visceral reaction, and I think that's one of the things that I really like. Like I said about folks like yourself, Brian Regan, and other comedians like that, is it requires really thinking a little differently about so many common things that we experience, because as a comedian you're like trying to think about how can this joke resonate with the most amount of people, like what are things that people will connect to and relate to. And I think that definitely pushes you a little further to think a little more creatively about whatever subject material you're considering talking about. At least that's kind of been my feeling about it.
Yeah.
And what do you have any sort of new characters on the horizon that you're working on?
Yeah, I have one I think is fun, is an evangelical atheist who's bringing the evangelical zeal to nihilism and existentialism.
That sounds hilarious.
Yeah, and then I've got this other character. He's kind of a redneck backwoods hillbilly who's always been kind of a shyster, and has decided he's turned himself over to the Lord, and so he's becoming a preacher, and at the same time he runs a used car sales place, used car lot, and so he can't in any way ever be dishonest because he's given himself over to the Lord. So he does these commercials about the cars and tells you absolutely everything that's wrong with them. And by the time he's done, he's convinced himself that you shouldn't buy the car. He feels horrible to sell it to you.
Yeah, our lot is full. We've got all of these vehicles. Oh, don't open the trunk though. Don't try to crank it. That sounds hilarious. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there any way we could get a taste of these characters?
Oh, gee.
Are they around?
Well, let me see. Let me see if I can find them. All right, what we have? Welcome to Rodney's used car lot. What we have here right here for me right now? Okay. Oh, now if you're looking for a car that's going to get you from A to B, this is probably not the car you want to use.
Oh,
if you just need a car in your front lawn to keep people from trying to mow your lawn, this is probably the car you want to have. This thing, it's a 2002 Toyota Sienna. We've had to replace the transmission 3 times. The spark plugs keep fouling, and it's got an oil leak.
That doesn't sound so good, Rodney.
But it is a great car because the air conditioning sometimes works. Now, it's a blower motor issue that we're aware of. Keeps blowing a fuse. So if you we just stuck a penny in there, and with a couple of wrapped around to some wire, and it's not blowing the fuse anymore. But sometimes you get an electrical fire somewhere up near the headlights. But it's a delightful car. It'll bring you lots of joy and happiness when it does run.
Oh, okay. Do you happen to have any cars on the lot that might actually reliably get me from point A to point B?
Well, see, that's the problem. As soon as we find a car that's reliable, we just keep it ourselves. So we're not doing well with the car lot. So
how long have you been in business, Rodney?
We have been in business 3 weeks. We've been in business for 3 weeks. We have 4 cars. We've not sold a single car, mostly because, I have found the Lord, and I cannot bring it in my heart to sell a car that I would not myself sell to the Lord. And so I think of each and every customer as my fellow compatriot, as literally as the Lord himself. And so I cannot lie to the Lord. So I cannot lie to you. So if you have a car and you want to sell it, or you want to buy a car, bring your car over to me. I'm going to take a look at the car. I'm going to give you an honest evaluation of what's wrong with each and every single car. And then I'll probably buy it from you because I feel terrible that you're driving this horrible car. So it's not a great business model. but at least I sleep at night, and that's the important thing.
It is. Although Rodney, I'm a little worried. Where do you sleep at night if you can't make any sales?
Well, still staying at my mama's house.
Oh, I see. Well, no judgment. No judgment. You do what you got to do.
Again, I'm still working on it.
That's great. I love it.
Still
Yeah.
working on it.
And what about the evangelical atheist? This is actually a concept that as a teenager I would think about, because I remember as a kid I was like, dang, the atheists seem just as like dogmatic as the Christians, and like they're just like,
yeah, they just got no zeal. I mean, you sit there and you watch a Southern preacher. They're going to talk about everything and anything. They can find a message. In fact, just the other day, I was sitting in my chair. I was sitting on my porch. I was sitting out there. I was enjoying the good, glorious, beautiful world that we have before us. And I realized at that point in time that I was thirsty. And so I decided what I was going to do is I was going to go get myself some crystal clear water. So I went down. I went to go find me some water. I could not find a clean glass in the kitchen. I had to wash my own glass. And I think that's important. I think that is the message that the Lord has for us today, is that he has a beautiful message for us, but we have to clean our vessel to receive it.
Absolutely. Amen.
And then when you couple that with nihilism,
you clean the glass, but like,
now you get the glass clean, and then you put the water in it. And then as soon as you drink it, it's gone. And so is life. Life is nothing but a fleeting moment of time. You may feel that your life is full of meaningless and void of wonder. Well, it's because it should be. This is all nothing. It's pointless.
There's nothing more to learn. It's all over.
Everything you learn is a lie, based on lies. Every bit of information you receive from other people is based on lies they've received. And so each and everything that you learn and know, it's all lies.
What do I do with all those lies?
Just add to the lies. We're just build a reality together. Let's try to make something fun and interesting. I think we bring in vampires. Let's bring back dinosaurs. Let's create a reality that's a lot more fun.
I mean, I do like Jurassic Park, so that could be fun. I guess. And I guess if the dinosaurs get out and it doesn't really matter, it doesn't mean anything, then let's do it. I'm down. You convinced me. I'm joining the church.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it. And how do you join the church? Just stop believing in everything.
Just do less.
Just do less.
Well, and I'd be interested to know what Leonard thinks about some of these topics that we've been talking about today. Do you know if he's around?
Well, okay. Hello.
Hey, Leonard.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah. So nobody really knows what's going on, and like people who think that they know what's going on, they're probably more screwed up than everybody else, because they're lying to themselves, and they don't know they're lying to themselves. Or they're just trying to sell you a book. So what I was trying to say, just enjoy your life. You got all the answers, all the questions. If you have a question about something, the only reason you have the question is because you already know the answer. You're just trying to figure out how to see what the answer is.
What's your what's the biggest question, Leonard, that you have about life?
Why are people so stupid?
Have you
Not really.
have you come to any answers for that one?
So most people are stupid because they don't know they're stupid. That's the biggest problem. And so once you understand that you're a stupid person, then you are on your way to recovery. But the first thing you realize is that you're probably never going to stop being a stupid person, and you're never going to recover. But at least you have a realistic understanding of your stupidity. Because the people who are the really stupid people don't know they're stupid. So, which makes it fun because you can talk about stupid people to them directly, but they don't know that they're stupid people. So they're too stupid to comprehend that they're the one you're actually talking about, how stupid they are. Which makes it even more fun to talk about how stupid they are.
I think I'm stupefied by that answer, Leonard. How did you come to gather so much wisdom about the world, Leonard?
Well, we all just kind of sit around and you think about stuff, and you realize that everything that there was, all the thoughts that were worth thinking, you all had those before you were like 8 years old, and then you start getting your head full of everybody else's thoughts, and then then you forget all the stuff that you had already thought about and had figured out because you're thinking, well, maybe I didn't really know what I was doing because I was only 8 years old. And so then you get older and you start listening to all these other people and you're thinking that, okay, I had it all wrong at 8 years old. And then you start doing all the stuff that these people are telling you to do. And then you realize that they haven't the slightest idea what they're doing. They're probably more screwed up than what you're thinking. And you realize, hey, I had it figured out back when I was 7. Why not just start going back to doing that stuff? And then as you start doing that stuff, you realize that all this other stuff you've been thinking about isn't worth thinking about because all the stuff that was important to think about, you already thought about it back when you were a little kid, but then you thought that nobody else thought that stuff because you were just a little kid. So there's no way that anybody else was thinking the same thoughts that you were thinking because you were just some stupid kid that nobody cared about. And then realize later on in life that everybody thinks the same thoughts and they had the same thoughts about what you were thinking back when you were a kid, and because they had those same thoughts when they were a kid, and they were thinking maybe these aren't very good thoughts because I'm just a kid. And then you realize when you get older, the adults have no idea what they're talking about because they all forgot about what they were thinking about when they were a kid.
That's heavy, Leonard. That is heavy. And why don't we just teach kids this when they're 7 or 8 years old so that we don't waste so much time?
Well, see, that's the problem is we don't want to teach kids to think for themselves. So they start thinking for themselves, and then they start doing their own thing. Then it's harder to control them to do the stuff that you want them to do because they're off doing all this other weird stuff. And so we got to teach them to do that stuff is stupid stuff. And so they will stop doing that stupid stuff, even though it's actually smart stuff, but it's more smarter stuff than what we're coming up with. But we need them to do the stupid stuff for us. So we just try to keep them stupid.
And thus the cosmic wheel keeps on spinning. The people keep being stupid.
Absolutely right.
This has
And
been
and they're always going to be stupid. You can't stop stupid.
You can't stop stupid. So what do?
You just sit back and enjoy the ride.
And just try to smile every now and then. Leonard, this has been profound. Thank you so much for joining our conversation here today.
Well, thank you, and have a super awesome day.
You have a super awesome day too. Can I talk to Rodney again? Is he around?
Okay. How's it going?
Well, that was great. We just had a lovely chat with several friends of yours, and I think we reached some very meaningful insights about the nature of life.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm going to be wrestling with these for quite a while. The circle of stupidity, that wheel of stupidity, it keeps turning.
Mm-hmm.
Rodney, I'm interested to know what were some of your comedic inspirations growing up? Who were some of the comedians that you enjoyed and followed?
My earliest, I know this sounds weird for some people. Bob Newhart was always one of my absolute favorites. I love The way he would do these kind of one-sided conversations.
Yep. And his expressions too.
Yeah, his expressions. Yeah, and it was just brilliant to me how he would construct these storylines and be able to tell the whole story from just one side. For the telephone call kind of thing. And then of course Jonathan Winters and Robin Williams.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed Rich Little.
Yeah.
He's still around, actually. And he's mostly impressions, but he had great jokes. I mean, it wasn't just his impressions. I mean, he actually had jokes with the impressions, which was pretty amazing.
And what is the going back to kind of when you were developing and getting started? When you're trying to write a joke, how I know from sort of my own artistic experience as a musician and a writer, a lot of times, when I was younger, I would take things that I liked a lot and emulate them to get a feel for, just what does something that's good feel like and sound like, that sort of thing.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Is that something you went through with comedy as well, writing jokes and stuff? Was there a time where you'd kind of like emulate a lot of your kind of favorite stand-up routines?
Oh yeah, especially when I was younger, I always try to, like when I'd watch a Bob Newhart thing, I always try to memorize it and try to redo it. I remember I used to watch the Carol Burnett show all the time.
Oh my gosh, she
Loved
is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tim Conway to me was just brilliant. And I used to always, I probably tried to copy him more than just about anybody else, especially when I was younger, and you do skits and stuff, scouts or junior high or, do improv. To some degree, I was always just doing an impression of Tim Conway to some,
Did you have
especially physically. It was more of his physical mannerisms,
Well, that was what was great about him. Yeah, I mean, it was so he was so animated that it was hard to believe he was even a real human being sometimes. Like Dick Van Dyke's kind of like that too.
Oh yeah.
And did you have a particular because Tim Conway, he's done some amazing characters, especially on the Carol Burnett show. I'm trying to remember. There's one where they were like Nazis. Gosh, it's been so long since I've watched it. I just remember Tim Conway getting slapped repeatedly or something. That was so funny. But the main thing I remember him from as a kid, a movie that I used to watch a lot was The Apple Dumpling Gang.
Oh, yes.
And
Don
it had
Knotts.
Yeah, exactly. Don Knotts and Tim Conway together was like just the best comedic gold. Just particularly the physical humor. Gosh, I spent so much time as a kid laughing so hard at that movie, and now I've gotten older and I realize a lot of people my age aren't even familiar with that movie or the Carol Burnett show or any of that sort of stuff.
They might see one or two clips, but it was like, man, you need to just really get into his body of work because he was so funny. And that's the other thing is there's so many things from back in those days, the old roasts and all the comedians back then it was something very different. Everybody was trying to do something different. Everybody was really pushing the boundaries. Whereas it seems like comedy nowadays, everybody's trying to become the same person.
Yeah.
That's
I think that's a really good point. And it is something you see that a lot of comedians today, it is hard to identify sort of distinguishing characteristics between them. I mean, obviously some of the big names, that's easier to do. But when you start, kind of like diving in beneath the surface, that's interesting. You point that out. I hadn't really thought about it, but you're right. There's been a large kind of move towards homogeneity in comedy over the past several decades or so, which is disappointing. I'd like to see more of that kind of physical humor make a comeback. I always was attracted to that. Like I said, I was a big fan of Dick Van Dyke, so I always loved that kind of stuff, or like John Cleese and like the Ministry of Funny Walks.
Oh,
Uh,
yes. I loved Monty Python.
yeah, like that kind of stuff. It's just so special. And like when you talk about Monty Python and you talk about people, trying to do something different. Gosh, what a great example there. And it'd be nice if we saw, you know, more efforts that were kind of comparable in that sort of nature of trying to push that boundary, but in a very intelligent, creative way.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I'm sure, I don't know, it seems like things kind of come around in cycles, so maybe we'll see a resurgence of some of that
Well,
sort
I
of stuff.
think I think people, I think that's one of the things with my stuff in particular is, um, it is so different and interesting that people are just realizing, hey, we can just joke about everything other than the nastiness in the world, or
Yeah,
at least we can make fun of it in a different way. And I think that's one of the things is it's like could we just tell jokes and have fun without having to have a social commentary to
right.
everything?
Yeah,
We don't have to make everything about politics. We don't have to have everything controversial. We can just laugh and have fun.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people are coming back around to that.
I
You
think
know.
so too, especially after last year. Just things have been so intense, and we've been in this weird kind of cultural situation for the past several years of just intense posturing. Just like, well, I have to show that I care about these important issues in the world, which means I've,
Yeah.
I've got to post about them. I've got to talk about it all the time, incorporate it into whatever you do. And I think that people are now realizing that's not a healthy way to engage the world. Um, it's
No, not at all.
and is something that I appreciate. Touching on what you just said, I think that good comedy inspires a perspective. It's about more than just telling some jokes and making people laugh, but it's about priming people to think about life a little differently and to see things from a lens that's always sort of there waiting for you to see through. But not everybody uh, um, does or is aware or feels like they have the social permission to laugh at things, and to look through that lens. But getting back to like sort of the heavier philosophical nature of all of this, I really see comedy as a critical tool to encouraging people to get more creative in their perspectives of life and how they're going through their day. I know that all of the comedians that have rubbed off on me every day as I'm going through things, it's like I hear them in my head and I think about like what would they say about this situation, or it just changes the way you see things, and it helps you um, uh, recognize the positive stuff that's kind of hiding sometimes from view. Maybe is the right way to put it. I don't know. So as we get ready to wrap up here, I want to make sure to let listeners know. I know from following videos on YouTube and stuff that you've been preparing to get back out in the world after everything we've gone through last year, do appearances, touring, and that sort of thing. So I wanted to make sure to give you a chance to let people know how to follow you, keep up with you, and if you have any tour dates, that sort of thing. This episode should come out around the second week of July, if that's helpful at all, as far as thinking about the timing of when people will likely listen to it. But
Oh,
I
okay.
wanted to give you the chance to take the platform and let everyone that's listening know anything and everything that you want to share with them.
Well, if you want to follow me, just Google Rodney Norman. I'm the most famous Rodney Norman that has ever
That's right.
existed. I figure I may not be a famous person, but I'm at least the most famous Rodney Norman, so I'll take that. No, I'm on all the social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. What's the other ones? I got a Twitter account, but I
I'm
despise Twitter.
I'm the
I
same
really,
way.
It's just such a nasty place. It's like, I just don't even feel comfortable. Every time I feel icky, every time I get into Twitter, it's,
Yep. It's easy
it's
for
just,
things to spiral out of control.
yeah, it's it's the nasty, it's the worst of the internet, is it Twitter. Um, but yeah, join me, follow me. I'm having fun. I have no idea what I'm doing.
At least you admit it.
I'm just throwing content out there for no good reason whatsoever. Most of it is pointless and meaningless, and I'm having a glorious time doing it.
So that's most excellent. And, I know you say that a lot of your content doesn't have much meaning to it, but I don't know whether to take that from the nihilist evangelist or because there's certainly all sorts of nuggets of very interesting insights to be gleaned from all sorts of things that you post. So yeah, I
Well,
highly
thank you.
recommend people follow, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably already interested in sort of philosophical stuff and that sort of thing. So Rodney is right there, perfect addition to the ecosystem there. So definitely look him up and check him out. And certainly, if you ever make your way out to Oregon, which is where I am, definitely let me know.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah, I think we're trying to set some stuff up there for September.
oh, most excellent. Okay.
So,
Yeah, well, I'm in the southern part of Oregon, more towards Northern California. So absolutely, if I'm around and you pass through, I'm definitely gonna
oh,
um,
nice.
have to connect with you, certainly. And as we sign off here, um, I guess what are some last parting nuggets of wisdom, insight, or just nihilistic ramblings that you might want to share before we cut things off?
Well, life is a wonderful thing. Whether you think it's a gift of God from God, as I do myself, or you think it's just a big, like I said, a happy accident, it's a gift regardless. It's an opportunity to just enjoy this existence and do it. Enjoy it. Love it. We're never going to get the full answer here, but we can find meaning in our own life and define it ourselves. And thank God that we have this opportunity. Take advantage of it. Love life. Get out there and just start living.
That's excellent. I can't think of any better way to close things off here. So, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Go check out Rodney Norman. You'll laugh, have a good time, and think about some interesting concepts while you do. You won't regret it. So, with that, if you want to learn more about Isn't Life Curious, you can find us likewise on most of the platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and whatnot. But with that, everyone out there, stay curious and take it easy. Bye-bye, everybody. And
We'll
thanks so
see.
much, Rodney, for coming on, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody. Take care.